Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Hassani.
And I'm Danielle.
And you're watching the After Infidelity podcast. And listen, there's so much to talk about. Obviously, on this particular podcast, we deal with what life is like after you've discovered an affair. And because of that, we're able to talk about a number of different issues that are relational. And so when things happen in the news, it seems like in the news cycle, all we're hearing about is this P. Diddy scandal. And so I'm like, you know what? How do we take that? Because what we do, we're not gossipers. We don't talk about celebrity news, but there are themes that we can extract from this breaking news story that could apply to people's relationships. And one of the themes that we have seen in this P. Diddy case, if we're going to get into it, is that he had a relationship with a number of different women throughout the course of his career, and all of them have been under control and manipulation. And oftentimes we would look at that as an abusive relationship. And many of the couples who come to us are in abusive relationships. So we kind of want to unpack this, get into the weeds of it, and see what we can learn from these type of experiences.
Yeah, I think there's quite a buzz in the streets about it. I don't know anybody who's not talking about it. And being that we are Couples Academy, it makes sense for us to at least put our spin on it and give a take. Abuse is one of the main reasons why people do come to us. And, it's interesting how many people stay, right? And we make so many excuses as to why to stay in abusive relationships. So we're going to get into the weeds. We're going to unpack it a little bit. And we definitely encourage you to comment. We want to hear what your thoughts are. We want to know what you're thinking. What have you been saying in your circles? We're just curious as to what your thoughts are about how things can get so bad in a relationship that's this abusive and you stayed way too long.
And we want to set the record straight, because as Couples Academy, obviously people are coming to us because they're coming from abuse. They're coming from bad situations. There's toxicity, there's betrayal, there's deceit, and we are here to help restore those relationships. But in that process, we do also realize that there are certain relationships that are so toxic beyond repair because of an unwillingness to change. Like at the end of the day, if you're not committed to becoming the best version of yourself, nothing in your relationship is going to change. You could fix the relationship or the marriage all you want, but if you remain broken, you're just going to wind up breaking that fixed relationship again. So this is why we say that the key to your marital restoration is your personal transformation. Now, you work with women, I work with men, and I'm sure that there are times when you come across women who are just like, you know what, I'm not trying to change. I like who I am. It is what it is. And certainly we have men that have that same position as well. And when you're in that individual stuck place, it keeps the marriage broken.
For sure. I mean, being stuck in any kind of situation keeps things the way they are. At the end of the day, the transformation has to come within. And I often say it only takes one person to be the change that you're looking for. But when you are in certain circumstances that the control of change is beyond you, where you're dealing with somebody that is so toxic, that is so abusive, that it doesn't even matter what you do, nothing changes, then you have to turn to the mental faculties that God gave you, right? What you can see, sense, taste, smell. God gave those those physical faculties. Mm-hmm. God gave those things to you to use, right? So we overlook those things, right? We always want to know, I need a word from God. Am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do this? Well, physically, what are you seeing? Physically, what are you experiencing? If it's dangerous, if your life is in jeopardy, if it is unsafe, this is not something that you want to consider continue to be in. And it's interesting how many couples that who have come to us, and the most toxic, insane circumstances that they want you to help them repair. The things that we have heard, it's just like, I feel like I need to call the police on you. I'm not trying to help you, right? And so we really do have to begin to know the difference between, is this God's will, and straight up facts, because God put you here. He gave you these physical senses for you to know what to do. Sometimes, how amazing God is. He set up your body to, like, when something isn't right, the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. I don't know what it is, but something ain't right. use what God gave you to make sense of things and make the right decision before it gets too far gone. Because I think in this case with P. Diddy, you know, unfortunately, a lot of these women stayed too long. They ignored the obvious, and they ended up getting themselves into a lot of trouble.
So on that note, Kim Porter, and those of you who are not familiar, maybe you've been living under a rock. Kim Porter is one of the women that he actually was in a long-term relationship with. They have 3 children together. She passed away a couple of years ago, and during her toxic relationship with P. Diddy, she was taking notes. She had a journal, and she said, you know what, there's no way in the world that I'm going to continue to go through this. This guy is a monster. I've got to record it, because if I don't get this information down, then if something happens to me, then he'll continue to get away with this with other people. So she literally had a manuscript. She was preparing to write a book. He found out about it, and allegedly her death soon followed as a result of his discovery. But prior to her death, she took this manuscript and she shared it with very key people, essential people, friends. And so her thing was like, if something happens to me, I want to make sure that you have evidence of it so that this can get out, it can be published, and the world can know. Well, this book finally came out. Now, we don't know. Some say it's not her writing. Some say it's portions of her writing. I think Albie Shore, who is the former boyfriend, they have a child together, said that he doesn't believe that that's the actual manuscript, that the FBI or the feds probably have it, but it's a portion of it. So there's some truth. Who knows? The point is, there's a lot of information. Now, the book has been out for like a week. It's already an Amazon bestseller, and it's so indicting. But in it, it really begins to share the relational dynamic that they had in the relationship, which speaks to the topic today. Why do people stay in abusive relationships? And there are 8 things that we want to point to. And as we talk about this, we want you to think about you. We want you to think about your relationship. Does this align with you? And so obviously their particular case is different, but let's go into it. Number 1, we find that a lot of women or men, but in this case, women, stay in abusive relationships because there's a level of power and influence that the man may wield. Like, think about it. If you are a celebrity, if you are a leader, if you have a lot of influence and money and wealth, that's highly attractive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think on both sides, right, this could be male or female situation. But in this case, I mean, when a woman is subjected to a situation where the man has the power, the authority, all the money, he can ruin your reputation. He could put you in the poorhouse, all the things. He's physically abusing you. There are hooligans around him that are protecting him. We're talking about P. Diddy here, but this is real life for many people. Yeah. I mean, this can happen in ministry. This can happen in politics. This can happen just in small communities and silos where, you know, you're married to somebody who has prominence and who has power and authority. And so people stay oftentimes because I'm married to all this power. What's going to happen to me and my family if I leave? And that's really the big thing. I think a lot of women are like, look, I could do bad by myself and I could do better by myself, but my children, what's going to happen to my children? How am I going to make it on my own? The other thing is being in the spotlight is very difficult because when people know you as, you know, you walk away from that life and you're walking away from your entire community and your entire world. And that's not easy for somebody who is a celebrity to do. Yeah. And you could be a celebrity in your own community. We have had many couples that have had that truth. Yeah. Even if they're from a small town, they are the celebrity couple in their small town. Yeah. So when crisis breaks out in their marriage, it is a crisis that will affect their entire life.
Of course. So getting back to this whole thing about power and influence, like it reminds me of the lyrics that Jay-Z had in one of his songs. He said, I'm not just a businessman, I'm a businessman. And so when you're selecting somebody for a relationship and they have title, position, and authority, there's a lot that comes along with that. So of course, oh my God, I'm with somebody who's influential. But what does that ultimately mean? It comes with a glamorous lifestyle. It comes with houses and cars and vacations and all types of excursions that you typically would not have in a normal traditional relationship because you don't have access to that level of wealth. You have access to opportunity. Think about it.
True.
Think about it. But matter of fact, in the book, it talks about how there were certain deals that she was supposed to have and garner because of her relationship to P. Diddy. And it kind of reminds me, there have been other people, whether political leaders, spiritual leaders, they were Mrs. Such and such. And with that came business deals, came
a certain
job
level
offers.
of respect
Absolutely
is garnered because of that. Like, you have prominence and position. So yes, it's easy to overlook certain things. I think that's the thing that entraps them, because at some point or another, none of that matters. At some point in another, you're ready to tuck and run, but it's too late because you're too caught up.
Yeah. And I think he used the fear of retaliation. Like, if you don't comply, if you don't give me what I want, if you don't align with my agenda, then all of these things begin to go away. And when you've had it for so long, it's just like, man, what am I going to do now if this relationship comes to an end?
Or if you're
start from scratch.
Or if you're with a psychopath, they're literally saying, "I will destroy you if you don't." That's really what we're dealing with here. This wasn't I have all the benefits of life, I want to stay in this wonderful. Like, it was like, gotcha, you're on tape, okay, and you're going to do what it is that I say or else. And it doesn't take for you to be a celebrity for you ladies, wives, to be caught up in a situation like that where you are under the thumb of somebody's abuse, right? Whether it's threat, some kind of manipulation, defamation of character. Like, there's a lot of that going on in communities and people that you know on some level. And it doesn't take for you to be a multi-millionaire for you to look at the situation and say, if I have to count the cost, it's actually easier, it's better, it's safer for me to keep quiet and to stay. It's not the right choice because, as you can see, it ends horribly every time. But you can see how people will rationalize that because somebody who's so sadistic would literally try to destroy you if you try to get free.
Yeah, and I think that kind of transitions into the next point. It's emotional manipulation and control. And this is one of the signs of a very toxic and abusive relationship. And so you're kind of with a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. In one breath, this person seems to be loving and caring and is very endearing. And then in another breath, they become very hardcore, very emotionally detached, and very controlling. And so in this situation, this is what this term love bombing comes in. It kind of reminds me of Ike and Tina. If you know the story of, Ike Turner and Tina Turner, how he was very, very abusive and he beat her in one moment, but then slide a gift to the edge of the bed and apologize the next moment. So he promises her, I'll never do it again. He promises her, and this is what we see. When people do wrong, what do? They gift them. They have new rings and new jewelry and a new car and a new purse and a new shoe. And that may temporarily solve an issue but long term it really doesn't. But these are the manipulative things that the manipulator can do. I will hurt and harm you, but then I'll offer you something that extends you help to make you realize that I'm your savior, that I'm the one that can turn your entire situation around.
And to say, it's not all bad. Yeah, I got beat down, but you know what? Look at all these gifts and look at how lavish. I mean, dozens and dozens of roses filling my foyer, my year-long roses. So you got 1 year-long roses? I got 100 year-long roses, right? To remind me of his love for the year while, it's like they can rationalize all these reasons to stick around. I think also, we're anchored in other ways. Like, she had 3 children. She had 3 children with this man, right? And so when you have power like that, a lot of times people will try to threaten to take your children from you. You've seen that happen a lot in Hollywood. So if this is the case in somebody else's life out here in these streets, you can see if somebody has power, they're the financial breadwinner there. They could go to the courts and take your children. And so now you're destitute somewhere. Your children are taken from you. What do you have left?
Right.
Barely a reputation because they can slander you too.
And that's the point. I'm willing to endure this hell for the sake of my children. So to your point, because that's one of the points, you're thinking about their future, their stability. You're thinking about all the things that will be robbed of them if this relationship falls apart. So you become the sacrificial lamb and continue to endure the suffering. Now, we talk about this all the time. A lot of times people do the quote unquote right thing for the wrong reasons. In the context of relationships, when we're talking about the couples who come to us, sometimes that's the only reason why they're willing to stay. We're not talking about this level of toxicity, but if you're in a situation where you're considering divorce, but you have kids and you're vacillating back and forth, sometimes I'll say, well, like if the only reason why you're staying is for the kids, I'll take that, because we have enough time to work on other healthy reasons, positive reasons to stay in a transformed relationship. But when there are no kids, it's easier to tuck and run. And in this case, a lot of times people feel trapped because of those children.
Yeah, and you said something interesting. You said becoming the sacrificial lamb, because I think also being married to the business, which you mentioned too, because your marriage is a business and the business of being in Hollywood and all that. A lot of times you're also the provider for your family. So, the person that is the victim could be the one in their family that's supporting their mother, supporting, their brothers. Mm-hmm. So finances from this, marital foundation is going in so many different directions. And so they are the sacrificial lamb. They kind of make it up in their mind, well, I'm able to bless all my family members. Everybody's doing well because of me. So I can handle it because I'm the strong one. I'm the strong one. I'm the fortified one. I can do this so that they can have. And you hear a lot of women talk like that.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I'll sacrifice me because I can handle it. And this is why they tell you to check on your strong friends, because they're the ones holding it down for everybody else, and everyone is taking advantage. But people don't know what they're going through to make all this happen. They keep all that to themselves and in secret. Mother doesn't know. Your father doesn't know. Your brother and sister don't know. They see you all the way up here. They honor you. They idolize you because you made it, right? But they don't know what's going on in the deep recesses of your marriage.
And that's another point. A lot of times people who are in abusive relationships, it feels very isolating, because to your point, they're holding on to the secret. They can't tell mom and dad. They can't tell best friends. They can't. Why? Because they're protecting the reputation of the one who's abusing them in the relationship. Yeah. So I'm the one being abused, but I'm protecting you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we find a lot of times. And this is why people stay trapped in their relationships as well, because they don't have wise counsel. They don't have people really speaking in their ear, encouraging them to do what is best for them. So in the context of what we deal with, we never say divorce should be the first option. It should be the last option. Right. What have you done in between that? And so this is why a controlled separation, when it comes to abusive relationships, if you are in physical harm, if it becomes so emotionally overwhelming that you can't function, you can't breathe, you can't walk, you can't talk, maybe that's time that maybe that's the time where you separate.
Not maybe, it is the time.
It is absolutely the time.
Listen, coming from an abusive home, things happen over the years. Accidents happen. When you're in a home where there is fighting going on, and you're married to somebody that will actually throw a punch at you. Oftentimes they're throwing punches at you and you dodge and children get hit and everything else. If you are in a physically abusive relationship, you need to get apart. There needs to be a separation immediately. And if this is someone who cannot be reconciled, because, first of all, if you're a man that hits, you're a man that hits, in my opinion. I'm not saying you can't be reformed, but that's a certain kind of a mindset. A man that hits a woman has a certain kind of a mindset and a certain kind of a pathology. So 9 times out of 10, if this man is hitting you, this is not the first, it ain't the second, it ain't the third, and it's probably not the last, right? And so this is what I mean by observing, using what God gave you, your ears, your eyes, your senses. Your senses is what you feel when somebody slugs you upside the head, to make a determination about, should I be in this relationship? It really gets under my skin when people try to rationalize why they should stay with someone who is physically abusive. You should not. You are putting your life in jeopardy. No. And the other thing that's crazy is, a lot of times, because churches have religious practices, they will say, well, is he a good provider? I mean, he's a good man. Go back to him, And so even in the church, sometimes abuse is protected.
So let's talk about the countless women.
And I was going to say, we're going to talk about the countless women, because that's a real deal. But I want to know what y'all think. So blow up the chat. I want to know what y'all think about this. Are you feeling what we're saying? Do you think that if you're in a physically abusive relationship, you should give this person a chance, and maybe send him to anger management or her? right? And see if the abuse will stop. What are your thoughts? I'm just curious because I come from an upbringing where there was abuse every day. There were, situations, okay? And many of those situations put us kids in jeopardy and in danger. So I'm coming from my perspective in my pathology. What do y'all think? And go ahead, talk about these women because you're right. Women hit.
Women hit and women hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And interestingly enough, there's a large percentage of women who are in jail today because of domestic violence.
And that's probably not promoted as much, right?
Of course not.
People don't hear about that.
Of course not, because and a lot of them who aren't in jail, a lot of them who are still in that relationship because the man protects the reputation of that woman. So it's almost like if I admit that I'm being beat on by my woman, somehow that makes me less than a man. So it impacts my reputation and how I see myself. Trust and believe. A lot of men will not report because it impacts their ego as a man.
Is he protecting her or is he protecting him?
There's two things.
Okay.
He's protecting him and he's protecting her. Both things are happening. Now, which one is stronger? I don't know. But to reveal that to my boys, to society, I'm going to be looked at a certain type of way, but also I'm protecting the woman. Now, it may not always be in reaction to a betrayal. So the typical scenario is, well, because you hurt me, this is why I do what I do. And then it becomes justifiable behavior. Uncontrollable, justifiable behavior that I beat you, I stab you, I pistol whip you. Trust and believe. All of it is happening and we cover and protect it. And so the question is, does the same rule apply?
Does the same rule apply about leaving?
Yeah.
Why would it differ? I mean, if you are in a relationship where you're being abused physically, it's the same thing. A woman that gets enraged, I feel like a woman that gets enraged is pretty scary too. Breaking things, throwing things. I mean, we have rage. And so children get injured in this. The spouse is injured in this. And if this is something that is uncontrollable, the person, you've been through especially men, I think, would say, okay, so you need some anger management. I'm going to be able to stick it out because I'm a man. I can handle it. Maybe the injuries aren't as bad. I don't know. Okay. Because I don't beat and I've not been beat. But what I will say is that if you're in a situation where beating is happening and not stopping, this is a relationship that you need to get out of.
I think the key to what you just said is uncontrollable. Now, there is this thing called controlled rage, and it comes out when I'm triggered or comes out when we're having a fight. And so once again, there should be steps and phases to all things. If you've attempted to go through anger management and counseling and to do all the necessary work and it continues to occur and it's becoming toxic, then yes, at some point you got to separate. And a controlled separation is different than a regular separation. And knowing the difference is critically important because there's still the possibility of restoration with a controlled separation. Whereas with a regular separation, you're one step closer to ultimate divorce.
I got this really powerful comment from Pat. She says, yes, I'm a survivor of being groomed into a non-consensual relationship that ended with me reporting him to the police, 3 felony SA charges, each worth 10 years minimum.
Wow.
I relate to everything you say. Wow. I stayed for a year until I escaped to my bedroom at my parents' home and left my apartment with all my stuff, minus a suitcase and my cat. I'm trauma bonded to him. So still currently trauma bonded, it sounds like. I mean, at the end of and that's another thing, just being trauma bonded to someone because of all the elements that we were talking about. I don't know her pathology. I don't know what the background is, but whatever his background is and being able to relate based on past hurts and pains, you empathize with the person. I understand. We make excuses for them because we know what it feels like to be in that situation. We know what it feels like to be wounded, right? So we're wounded together. But I mean, I just want to
the whole Stockholm syndrome.
It is, and I want to commend Pat for being so bold and brave and actually getting out of that situation because that took a lot of courage for her to call the police on him and go through the process of prosecution, where he was charged. Wow. That
does take a lot of strength to do. And so think about this. One of the other reasons why a person will stay in an abusive relationship is that they have a hope that eventually you'll change. Because guess what? I know the real you. See, deep down inside, you're really a good person. You're just doing all these bad things.
Right.
And so either I want to believe that there's a possibility of you transforming, or you continue to give me glimpses of hope, because there are times when you are nice. There are times when you do lavish me with all types of gifts and experiences. There are times when we are connected and having fun. But then like a light switch that flips, the rage comes. So I see both realities.
And you see both realities, and you see the potential of the person. You love the person. And this is what Pat was saying. She had finished up by basically saying she knows this is crazy. She knows this wrong, but she still feels like she loves him, because you care about the person.
Yeah.
Why do they do this to me? You know, I know how they became that way. They were abused. Someone beat them. I understand. I love them. But at the end of the day, they don't know how to love properly. They don't know how to treat you. So they're going to injure you. They're going to continue to break your heart and harm you physically, which means that you have to love you more. Enough to get away from that situation.
Now, in the book that Kim wrote, you know, one of the things that you kind of walk with her on her journey is this whole vacillation. Should I stay? Should I go? Because there were key times in the relationship, major things that have happened that she said, never again, I'm done. And she left several times. And throughout the course of those years, he would come back with promise, with hope, with I'll never do it again. Listen, don't you really know who I really am? And so he was able to pull her back in with words and promises and gifts and all types of things. And so she would do it and fall in love with him, but immediately regret it because she saw the other side. And it's so interesting, this paradox that people are operating in, this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And so this is why it's so important that one of the most attractive traits on a person is integrity and character. It doesn't matter how good they look. It doesn't matter how much money they make. It doesn't matter how great their personality may be. Are they consistent in doing the right thing over a period of time that you can believe in?
I mean, that's interesting. I'm sitting here thinking about Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll's the evil one, right?
I think Mr. Hyde
was the evil one. I mean, I think when you're in an abusive situation, the longer you're in the relationship, you see more of the Hyde than the Jekyll, or whatever the dark one is, you know? It's the other people that may experience the Jekyll and the Hyde. I feel like at some point or another, you just experience in Hyde, because the veil is torn, you know, the scales fall off your eyes and you see the manipulation right there in front of you. It's just that now, because you overlooked so many things for so long, you've entrapped yourself. It's like being in a tangled weave and web of lies. You've lied to everyone. You've covered up for him to everyone. You've built this entire facade around this person. And so they get to just be completely free and off the chain with you to keep you in check and in line. And the other thing is, because they have shown you the real Hyde, right? They've shown you the devil. Now they really got to suppress you to make sure that you don't reveal to anybody else that the Jekyll is a complete and total fraud.
Wow. And this is why so many people who actually go through a recovery process, the two things that people struggle with the most are trust and triggers. Because if I've been dealing with you for the last 5, 6, 10, 12, 30 years, and you've always shown up this way, and then all of a sudden you go through this change and you're doing the right thing for a minute or two, I'm just supposed to believe it. I'm just supposed to let my guard down, tear this wall down, and just trust. This is why we say, you know, trust is lost in buckets and gained in drops. And so when you go from one type of reality to another, back to another reality, back to another, then it would leave somebody in a state of perplexion and confusion. And so this is why we say you have to, over an extended period of time, slowly but surely begin to regain the trust of your spouse. And so this is why it's important for people to understand that it is not an overnight journey at all. I mean, how long have you been in that negative space? Has it been 5 years? Well, so you think 5 days of doing the right thing is going to win your spouse's heart back? No, it's going to take a whole lot more than that.
Right.
And so that's why I'm excited about the journey that we're taking both men and women on in our recovery program, because it's not an overnight thing. It's an extended period of time where a person can see their spouse's change in real time.
Yeah, I mean, that part. And I'm also thinking about, is there any changing appeal P. Diddy type. We're talking about like mental disorders
Man.
This joker. I mean, talk about sociopath and narcissistic. I mean, narcissism is something that can't be cured from. I mean, all these things. I mean, God can do all things, so I'm not going to hold that. But I will say that, oftentimes we hold on to relationships that are doomed. Period. Doomed. And unfortunately, because of the way things go, it's our job when you come here with whatever crisis you're in to provide you a roadmap of clarity so that you can see crystal clear what is before you. That's our job. It's not our job to say, look, this mess is doomed, even if we can see it, even if we can see it clear as day. It's not our job to say this mess is doomed. Stop now. Stop the bleeding now. It's our job to show you so that you can make a decision that is right for you, because no matter how, and we've tried in the past, we've tried to reveal to people in the past, like, listen, don't do this. It doesn't work. You have to come into your own strength and awareness, doing the self-work, self-love in order for you to make right decisions for yourself. And when it comes to something of this magnitude, dealing with a personality type like this P. Diddy situation, this is a tuck and run type of a situation. This is not a let me call Couples Academy and see if they can heal my demented, sick, twisted. This is a tuck and run situation. And do call us so that we can tell you to tuck and run. But recognize what you're in before you get in so deep that you can't get out. Remember the movie In Too Deep, right? You get so in to the situation that you forget yourself, you lose all of your sense of reality, and next thing you know, you're trapped. And I just am tired of seeing that for people.
Yeah. And so this is why getting help is important, because a lot of times people are in a space of, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm trying to figure it out. And that's what we can help you do. It's called discernment counseling. So some people come in, think we have 3 types of couples we work with. Couple number 1, they both want the marriage. Okay. So we know what we're working with. Couple number 2, one wants it, one's unsure. Then couple number 3, one wants it, one does not. So then they're definitely not on the same page. Yet they go through a process to see what's possible. So for many people, it's discernment counseling. I'm trying to discern what decision I should make. If I make a decision in my emotions, I'm going to make a decision that I'll regret, and then I'll pull back from my decision. So we've seen people who have adamantly wanted to stay, but because they're in their emotions, the next day they're ready to go. Then some people who are committed to leaving, but they're in their emotions, now they want to stay. So balancing head and heart is critically important. Bringing in other wise people who are emotionally disconnected from your situation. Because if I'm emotionally disconnected, I can see and experience and perceive things in a way that you can't, at least at this moment. And so this is why couples counseling is important, but that individual counsel is also important. Talk about what you do with the Unearth program.
I will.
We'll talk about what you do with Suitable Helper, because it's for that person who's looking for personal help to get them through.
Absolutely. At first, I just want to recognize Reborn. Thank you for your comment. She was just talking about how all these movies are showing you over and over again, but way back from Motown, a woman getting beaten, cheated on over and over again. And then she gets up on the stage and she's singing, but I love him, but I love him. And so come on, reality check, right? We do need to work on ourselves. And so this is what we do working with wives. And of course, we know that wives hit too. And so it is about drawing a circle around your own 2 feet and figuring out what pathology brought me to this place. How did I get here? Where is my brokenness? Why do I do the things that I do? And why do I accept the things that I accept over and over again, despite wise counsel, therapy, all the things. And so in the Unearth program, we do just that. We go through an excavation process or journey of you, and we peel all the layers back. It gets gory in there. It gets emotional in there. You have a community of sisters that are riding by you through your journey of self-discovery. It's a 12-week program, and we work with women all over the world. It has been so transformational. I couldn't say enough about it, but really go to the Couples Academy website, or better yet, go to DannyPettifor.com to learn more about it and see testimonials of some of the women. And then we've got Suitable Helper Community, which is really all about us wives wives learning the authority and power God gave us as wives to be the suitable helper to our husbands. We can be wives, but are you a suitable wife? And a suitable wife means that you know how to be, how to show up, how to partner in a powerful way, how to turn circumstances around, how to be the eagle eyes in your marriage, how to be a prayer warrior, because really you're a warrior. So all the things that you are desiring in your relationship and in your life, you actually have the authority to do and to begin that change all by yourself. Authority given by God. So we help you understand that with a powerful community of connection and fun, where it's not all serious. We have a good time chatting, sharing recipes, doing all kinds of things. So check it out.
Yeah,
DannyPettiford.com.
You got to sign up for that, because it's going to be transformational. You know, one of the things that I know that some of the women who come through our program go through, which is similar to going back to the story of P. Diddy, that Kim, Porter, and Cassie have gone through, that have kept them in these horrific relationships, is low self-esteem and psychological dependence. Like, when you've been in something for so long, it affects your self-esteem, your self-worth. You begin to question, who am I? What do I believe? I don't even know who I am.
Who am I?
I don't know who you are. So you've lost yourself. You lost your voice. You lost your identity. You've lost your lease for life. And you're trying to find and discover who you are again. And in that process, you may stay in a relationship for too long that becomes even more toxic and abusive. So it's almost like, even when wise people show up and say you need to get out, that may logically make sense,
right?
But emotionally, I don't understand it,
right.
And I don't have the strength and the ability to do what I know is the right thing to do.
Like how do I get, because there's so many fences around you now. Like, how do I get out of the inner courts of this, right? Like, there are layers to this. It's not like, you know, when people talk about going to the P. Diddy parties, especially now that everybody's like, yeah, I've been there. You better admit that you've been there now that all the records are being released, right? But I didn't go outside. I was inside. I didn't go inside. I was outside in the yard. I didn't go inside. And then when you go inside, you know, I was just in the foyer. And then, you know, when you're in the foyer, I didn't go into the inner room. Like, so there are layers to this. And so when you're in the inner courts, in the inner secret rooms, that's a lot of layers to get out of. You're in too deep.
Yeah.
You know things, you have seen things, now you're accountable. And then also, you might also have been party to things that you should not have been in, even against your will, right? But now you're going to be held accountable. So it goes to, now you're protecting yourself, right? You're protecting your legacy. And now you're forced to turn a blind eye to negative behaviors. This can be happening in your very own marriage. I mean, it doesn't take for you to be a celebrity to be in a toxic, unhealthy situation where you have been covering, abiding and abetting behaviors for far too long, and now they've gotten out of hand.
Now, as we close, think about what Danielle just said. Maybe for you, you're in too deep. You're in a pit. You can't dig yourself out of a pit. When anyone is trapped in a pit, they need somebody to extend an arm, to pull down a ladder, to help them get out of it. And I think the biggest problem is everybody's taken a DIY approach to their situation, and then they wonder why it's just not working. I'm trying to fix, I'm trying to restore, I'm trying to get out, I'm trying to do something. But even, as they say, you may have the best of intentions, but the road to hell has been paved with good intentions. And so sometimes you need somebody who can help you out of your situation. Maybe it means getting out of the marriage because that's the best thing to do. Maybe it means getting out of the current relationship within the marriage to create a new relational dynamic to stay in that marriage. But the point is, when you're making these decisions on your own, it's a skewed decision sometimes. And so this is why you need a professional to guide you through a process. And that's why Couples Academy is here. So listen, go to the website, couplesacademy.org, set up a discovery call, reach out to us, 678-200-8996. You see that number at the bottom of the screen? That's what you want to do in order to turn your situation around. Listen, this is a fascinating conversation. You're going to be hearing about this Diddy case probably for the next number of months, because it's going to be out there. And when it's relevant information that we can pull in and share with you some relational advice to how you can help your situation, we will absolutely do that. But listen, reach out, sign up for the suitable helper community, as well as Unearthed. If you need some help, there it is. So listen, grab a picture of that QR code. Learn how you can find out more about it today. It's a powerful program. And listen, we're ready to go. Love you guys. See you.